Hello all, welcome to my channel. Today we will be starting a two-part lecture series on the significance of eukaryotic algae. Now, for a very long period of time, we have been using the algal biomass either as it is, or we have learned to extract certain valuable constituents from there, such as pigments or enzymes, which are then used in other applications, for example, in therapy, or maybe as food, or maybe in the field of agriculture. One or the other place, we have either used the algae completely, that is the algal biomass, or we have been using its constituents. What we will be studying about in these two lectures is what are the different industries or what are the different applications where we use algae and what exactly do we use in them with specific examples. So we can divide the algal significance or importance into economic importance and biological importance in the nature. The biological importance or biological significance I will be dealing with in the next class. In today's class, we will be looking into the economic importance of algae in all of these industries or fields that I have mentioned over here, namely in therapy or in the as their use as food and feed, in heavy metal removal and bioremediation, in agriculture as biofuel and other industrial applications. So let us look into each one of these in detail. The first application of algae or economic importance of algae is in therapy or as a therapeutic use. Now, there are many species of algae which are known to have anti-ulcerogenic properties, wound healing, treatment of skin disorders, anti-tumor activity. They have been used in dressings, in ointments, etc. So mainly this use has been concentrated to the seaweeds because we know that they have a very high content of iodine. So the seaweeds have even been used to check goiter. And we do have carrageenan, which is a blood coagulant that has been extracted from these algae. So these are some of the general uses of algae, that is in the treatment of skin disorders, anti-tumor activity, etc. But what I have shown here are specific examples of algae which are known to produce certain compounds as listed in the second column here, and these compounds are known to have therapeutic uses. For example, we have chlorella, which produces chlorellin, and chlorellin is having an antibiotic like activity. It is active against other organisms. Or we have Fragillaria, which produces peptides. Trichodesmus, Lingbia, these are known to produce certain terpenes and carbohydrates. I have abbreviated CHO as carbohydrates. Or we have Asтерionella, which produces certain fatty acids. Every one of these compounds that is isolated from these algae is known to have antibacterial and antifungal activity against other microorganisms. We also have these certain examples which have been in use. For example, Chondria sanguinae and Spirulina are known to have the research on them is very well recorded. They are known to have anti-ulcerogenic properties, they have wound healing properties, and they are also known to prevent keratinization. Also, spirulina is known to control weight gain, and it also promotes skin metabolism. So, it is used as an additional food supplement or a dietary supplement because of these properties. Then we have Sendesmus, which is having very high vitamin B content. So, it is used for treatment of eczema and other gynecological disorders where there is a vitamin B supplementation that is required. We have Chlorella vulgaris, which is known to have anti-tumor activity. Then we have certain species of Lingbia and Formedium, which are known to inhibit the cytopathic effects of HIV. So this is still under research. It is not used commercially, but this is proven. We have Dunaliella, which is a halotolerant algae, which is known to have a very high accumulation of beta carotenoids. So wherever beta carotenoids have to be supplemented to a human being, this is used. And we have Digenia, which is known to produce a compound called as kyanic acid, which is neuroexcitatory and even acts as a vermifuge, that is against the helminths. The second application of algae is as food and fodder or as feed. Now, food is any compound that is given or is taken in by humans. It is used for human intake, whereas fodder is something that is used for animal intake. Now, here, what I have shown in the first four boxes are the human intake or where we are using algae as food. So, we have Spirogyra and Edogonium, which are dried and packed and used in soups, especially in the Indian subcontinent. And we have Alva and Nostoc, which are also used in soups and salads in Europe and Brazil. So these are some examples where we are using the algae as a food substitute or we are using them as food itself. We also have sea lettuce, which is used in salads. That is also a common example for use of algae in soups and salads. Then we have porphyra, which is a very important part of the Oriental cuisine because it is rich in vitamin B and C. Not only Oriental cuisine, it is also used in the English cuisine. We have seaweeds, again, which are used in the Oriental cuisine in China and Japan, where it is very common to add the seaweed into other foods because of its nutrient content. So, what we mean to say here is that the algae are used as food additives. They are added to the food or they may be eaten as food. One, because they have a very high nutrient content, so they add on to the nutrition of the food. And secondly, they provide natural food color, so they have a high amount of carotenoids, and these carotenoids are enriching the color of the food itself, which is being taken in by the humans. We also have red, brown, and green algae, which are used as a protein substitute. So they are food substitute for protein. As fodder, we have algae being used as food for fishes. They are a very important source of food for fishes, aquatic amphibians, and etc., which in turn again are man's diet. So they are being fed to these animals, and those animals are being taken in by human beings. Specific examples include Ascophyllum, Fucus laminaria, which is mainly used as cattle feed, and we have Sargassum and Rhodymenia. This is also used as a feed additive. Now, just like how we have a food additive, algae are used as feed additive again to enrich the color of the products. The product could be egg yolk, it could be the poultry meat, the fish meat. So the meat color is enhanced due to the algal carotenoids, and even to enhance the health of the animal, the algae are being added as fodder. So they are being used as fodder additive or feed additive, or they can be used as food by human beings. The third application of algae is in bioremediation and heavy metal removal. Now, phytoplanktons or phytoplanktonic algae are very commonly used for the heavy metal removal from polluted water bodies. So these are a few examples of algae which have been known to have properties to remove either ruthenium, cesium, or there are several calcium isotopes. We have rubidium, cobalt, iron, zinc, strontium. All of these are being removed from the polluted waters with the help of algae. The reason algae are so preferred for heavy metal removal and bioremediation is because it is highly economical, and the final effluent we get is also reusable. It's a very good quality reusable effluent water that we receive, and at the end of the process, the algae or the algal biomass can then be further used for biogas production, or if it is not very poisonous, even as a fertilizer or as fodder. So there are multiple applications of the same algal biomass that we use. It can be first used for biometal, the heavy metal removal, and then used as biogas, or the algal biomass can be used. Now, this uh, heavy metal accumulation by the algae can be based on active or passive process. So, passive process is where the heavy metal is just adsorbed onto the cell surface of the algae, or it may be passively penetrating without requiring energy. Active process is where the algae puts in energy to absorb that particular heavy metal. Mainly, if we see in wastewater treatment, we have, apart from these algae which remove the heavy metal, we also have certain algae which are used in wastewater treatment because they produce a very high quantity of oxygen that is being used by the other organisms for decomposition of organic matter. These algae include Chlamydomonas, Chlorella species, and Euglena species because they show rapid photosynthesis, producing a large amount of oxygen, which is used for the decomposition of organic matter by other bacteria or fungi. Now, for the heavy metal removal, there are three, or in the wastewater treatment, there are three methods by which the algae may remove heavy metals. It can be by biosorption, bioaccumulation, or biodegradation. Biosorption is wherein it's a non metabolic process and it is a rapid process. It is non metabolic accumulation and rapid accumulation, that is called as biosorption. Bioaccumulation is a metabolically active, energy dependent cellular intake. So, where the cell is spending energy to uptake that particular heavy metal, that is called as bioaccumulation, metabolically active, energy dependent cellular uptake. The third one is biodegradation, where the pollutants are being broken down. These pollutants could be heavy metals. We have even seen that algae are able to work on oil spills, they are able to work on aromatic hydrocarbons, on pesticides. So the algae don't take it up, the algae only break down that particular pollutant into less toxic substances. So that is called as biodegradation. Basically, when we talk about bioremediation by algae, there can be three processes: biosorption, which is a passive process, bioaccumulation, which is an active process, active uptake, and the third one is biodegradation, wherein the organism is breaking down the pollutant into less toxic substances. So this was about the algal importance in heavy metal. The fourth application of algae is in agriculture. Now, this is very, very important because algae are naturally rich in nutrients and they can be used to provide nutrients to the soil as well. So we have blue-green algae, which are very good nitrogen fixers and they do nitrogen fixation, due to which they can improve the soil fertility, they can improve the crop yield. And we have many species of blue-green algae such as Anabina, Nostoc, Spirulina, Oscillatoria, Vestylopsis. These have been used from a very long time. They have been used as green manure or as biofertilizer. Biofertilizer because it is fertilizing the soil, but it is a biological organism. So due to this, they are actively used as biofertilizers. Blue-green algae are also used for reclamation of barren or alkaline soils. So not only blue-green algae, even the green algae, due to their repeated growth, they neutralize the alkalinity of a soil. And when the alkalinity is neutralized, the soil is now fertile, it is no more barren, and it can be used for growth of the plants. The other algae which are used as biofertilizers are the seaweeds, that is the brown algae and the red algae, because they are rich in potassium. So they are used for several plants such as potatoes, turnips, coffee, groundnut, and all of these plants where the potassium content required is more. Instead of adding a potassium biofertilizer, they add seaweeds. And instead of lime, we can use Kara because it is encrusted with calcium carbonate. So wherever lime needs to be added, instead of lime, the Kara can be just powdered, dried, powdered, and added. So these algae are, when they are added as biofertilizer, not only do they do this job of either nitrogen fixation or providing potassium or calcium, we know that algae will release several extracellular organic acids and amino acids, which will also help the soil, or which will also help the plant to grow, and the soil fertility will improve. The next application of algae is as biofuels. Now, biofuels is also called as green energy. It is a renewable source of energy. It is called as green energy because it is coming from natural sources. So, it is a green, clean energy, and it is renewable because this is a resource that can be continuously replenished. So, algae have been tried out as a process or as a type of green energy or green fuel because it is being derived from the algal biomass. Now, the algae are preferred because they have very rich composition of carbohydrates, proteins, and oils or lipids. Because of this lipid that is being made by the microalgae, that lipid can be converted into a biofuel, mainly biodiesel or any other biofuel. That is the reason, due to their high growth rate and high population density in comparison to other plants, we have algae being preferred for biofuel. We do have crop plants also being used as biofuel, but then the problem with crop plants is if we start using crops for biofuel, it leads to a food fuel competition. So to avoid that, algae are now being tried out as a fuel resource. Now this is just to show you the different generations of biofuel. So we had first generation where we were using edible biomass for fuel. Then we had second generation biofuels where we started using the non-edible biomass or plant material as fuel. The third generation is algal biomass. This is very important, where we are using the microalgae and macroalgae. This is more preferred. The third generation and fourth generation are preferred. And the fourth generation biofuel is wherein we are using genetically modified organisms for biofuel. So the algal based biofuels are coming under third and fourth, and that is what is being preferred to avoid the competition with food crops. From algae, we can either use the algae for solid biomass, which can be used in biogas production, or we can extract biohydrogen, bioethanol, and biodiesel from these algae. So, algae can give rise to any of these four types of fuels or any of these four types of green energy. Now, under this also, we are looking more into bioethanol and biodiesel. So, these are some of the organisms which have been used to extract biodiesel and bioethanol from algae. And all of this is still in the research mode, or it is in the pilot stage. We have not gone completely commercial with algal fuel because that requires modification of our car or bike engines. But it is effective. We can extract fuel from algae mainly because of their oil content. So that high fraction of oil, biomass to oil than a conventional crop is very, very important for extracting biodiesel from algae. Apart from that, like I have already told you, they have high growth rate, they are easy to grow, there is a very high yield per acre. When the harvesting cycle is there, very high yield we get, and they can be even used, or they can be even grown on marginal lands which is useless for other cultivable crops. So crops may not be able to grow there, but you can grow algae over there and use it as biofuel. The last application of algae is in industry. That means where we use the algae to produce commercial products. Now, the most popular choice for algal product from the industry is agar agar. It is a compound. Agar or agar agar is a compound that is a gelatinous extract. It is made up of galactose and sulfate, and it is basically the mucilage of red algae. So the algae which are used for extraction of agar agar are shown here, that is Gelidium, Gracilaria, Gigartina. We also have some agar industries isolating it from Anfelsia, Hypnea. These are also some other examples of organisms that can give rise to agar. And why do we need this agar? As we all know, agar is very important for making culture media throughout the world. So wherever there is culture media involved, there is agar involved, and agar is isolated from algae, these algae, red algae. It is also used in food industries. It is used in medicines. It is used as a laxative, as an emulsifier in dairy industry, even in the leather industry. The next compound that we have from algae is alginic acid. Now, alginic acid is isolated from certain algae like Laminaria, Lawsonia, Macrocystis, or Ascophyllum. This is also a compound which is found in the cell wall of seaweeds. So, in the higher seaweeds, it is found as the carbohydrate in the cell wall. It is used, alginic acid is used again in the food industry as a thickener, or in the cosmetic industry, in textile industry, printing pastes, it is used, or for production of plastic fibers, artificial fibers, in dental impressions, and in ice creams. So this is the use of alginic acid. We next have carrageenan, which is isolated from Chondrus and Gigartina. Again, it is a mucilaginous extract in the air cell wall. This is used as an emulsifying agent in soaps, toothpaste, deodorants, in paint industry, even in bakeries for preparing custard powder, chocolate, milkshake, we use carrageenan. Then we have the carrageenan also being used in these industries, like I have already told, in toothpaste, deodorants, etc. The next compound is diatomite. This also is something that you would have heard, because it is actually obtained from the diatoms, so the rock-like or the silica-filled siliceous deposit from the diatom frustules, or the cell wall of diatom, shell of the diatom, is over many years converted into a sediment, and that sediment is what we call as diatomite or diatomaceous earth. It is characterized by being highly porous, it is highly fine, it is an abrasive, it is highly absorbent, and it is chemically inert. These five properties: porous, fine, abrasive, absorbent, inert. These five properties are the reason it is used as a filtration device, very commonly used as a filtration device for oils and even other solutions. It is used as an insulation because it is fireproof. So it is used in fridge, boilers, big blast furnaces. It is used as an insulation material. It is also used due to its abrasive property in soaps, in metal polishes, bleaching powders, or in toothpaste. The last compound that we obtain from algae in the industry is glue, which is used mainly as an adhesive for cloth industry or in the paper industry, that is obtained from the red algae Gliopeltis. So these are some of the important compounds that we are commercially isolating from the algae and using it in the industry. I hope the economic importance of algae is understood by all of you. In the next lecture, we will be looking into the biological significance of algae. Thank you, one and all.